Alright, welcome to lesson 53 on percent. So I don't really like the way that they're describing percent in the book. So if you remember back in lesson 51, we learned that the word of means multiplication and is means an equal sign. That's going to also be helpful for this lesson, so I'll put a little circle around that. But let's go ahead and quickly talk about what they talk about in the book. So let's say you had the number 256, and you're trying to figure out, let's say, what's 37% of 256? Well, percent has to do with the number 100, right? So let's say that you divided 256 into 100 pieces. So I'm not going to take time to draw, all the little cubes, but let's say that you had 100 little cubes here. So if you divided 256 into 100 cubes, each of those little cubes would be worth 2.56. This next one would be worth 2.56, 2.56, etc., etc., etc. So if you had 37% of 256, basically what you're asking is, how much is 37 out of those 100 pieces? Or how much is 37%? So you could just take 2.56 and multiply that by 37 and then get your answer, which I believe, well, I'm not going to take the time to work that out. But that's the way that they're describing it in the book. I don't think that's super helpful. So let me show you a different way of coming up with that, because that's just a lot of extra steps. So if you want to look at example 53.1, it says, what is 1% of 7,500? I'll copy that down. What is 1% of 7,500? So let's go ahead and convert this into an actual math problem. So we have what? That would be a variable. So let's choose B. B, next we have is. We know that means the equal sign. B equals 1% of is multiplication, 7,500. Okay, so now we almost have a math equation, except we can't multiply it by a percentage. Do you remember how to convert a decimal to a percent or a percent to a decimal? Well, if you're going from a decimal to percent, you take the decimal point and you move it over 2 spaces to the right. Think of D being earlier in the alphabet than P. P comes later in the alphabet. And if you're going from a percent to a decimal, you move that 2 spaces to the left. So here we have a percent. So we want to convert that to a decimal. So we need to move that decimal 2 spaces to the left. So let's go ahead and do that. Usually the decimal's right here, but it's going to hop over 1, 2. So we get 0.01. That would be the decimal form of 1%. Let's copy down the rest of our equation. B equals 0.01 times 7,500. Now we can actually solve this. So let's go ahead and set up our equation. 7,500 times 0.01. A lot of zeros. Make sure you have your columns lined up nicely. Anyway, this is all just going to be a bunch of zeros. So we end up with 0, 0, 5, 7, 0, 0. There's 2 decimal places there. So we end up with this being our answer, 75. So what is 1% of 7,500? Well, the answer would be 75. So the reason why I'm teaching you this way is because it actually works with any percentage. So if you're trying to calculate 34% of 7,500, 59%, 99%, 97.5%, you can use the same method. Just remember your 2 tools. Of means multiplication, is means equals, and then don't forget how to convert from a decimal to a percent or a percentage to a decimal, so you can actually work with it. You can't just multiply 1% times 7,500. You can't multiply with percentages. You have to change it to a decimal. All right, let me know if you have any questions, and really focus on practice A through D. You really want to nail those. Okay, let me know if you have any questions.